Chapter 221. Behind the Darkness. Riser was surprised as he had never thought another world existed, but he didn't feel that much surprised, especially when he became Riser Phenex and had a system. However, unlike Shalba, Cruzari, and Euclid, whose purpose and ambition had always been in this world, Risavim was different as he wished to be in another world. Frankly, Riser didn't care about Risavim as an individual and why he wished to go to another world, but the information about another world he got from Risavim intrigued him. Evia told. Or E times E. It was the name of another world. To be honest, except for the name, whether it was Risavim or Euclid, they knew nothing. Nevertheless, Euclid aside, Risavim's ambition to go to another world was so intense, but he knew that it was impossible, especially in Dimensional Gap, where the location they needed to pass through to go to another world was being guarded by the strongest being in the world, the Great Red. Unfortunately, this strongest being was a dragon, a being that Riser loathed the most. If possible, Riser wished to erase all the dragons in this world except those weak ones, as he could use them as a pet. Nevertheless, his goal was aligned with the Cows Brigade as they wished to erase the Great Red from the Dimensional Gap. Cruzari, Shalba, and Euclid aside, Risavim's goal was to push the Great Red away, but he knew that it was impossible with his power. Even Ophis, the second strongest, was unable to do anything, so how could Risavim do it? In the end, Risavim made a crazy plan that made Riser speechless for a long time. Trash talk. Yes, it's trash talk. Risavim kept sending trash talk to the living beings who lived in another world, provoking them so they would be angry and also sending them a method to travel to their world. It was so crazy that he was unable to say anything, but if those beings really came to this world, what would happen? Riser didn't care much as he wasn't the one who provoked those beings, but if those beings came to attack him, then don't expect him to give them mercy. To be honest, while Riser was interested in the other world, he wasn't that obsessed with it as this world was still full of mystery for him. His life as Riser Phenex had just started, and there were many things that he hadn't done in this world, so when he was bored, he might think of a method to go to another world for a trip. Still, compared to the information about another world, there was a lot of interesting information that he got from Rivism. The first was the relationship between Rivism and Vali. The two of them were a family, and Rivism was Vala's grandfather. Nevertheless, Riser found out that Vala's miserable life was all due to Rivism, who gave advice to Vala's father, who was also his son, to beat up Vali. Vali was born with an amazing power, and due to this, Vala's father was in terror of Vala's existence. To ease that fear, Vala's father tortured Vala, as it eased his heart. However, as Vali grew, Rivism grew scared of Vala's potential, especially when Azazel started to get involved with Vala, so in the end, he led Vala's father so he wouldn't get revenge on Vali. Still, with Vala's personality, did Rivism think that he could run away from Vali? Nevertheless, Riser shook his head and disdained the son of the true Lucifer as this guy was so cowardly and so weak that it was funny for Surzek and Vala to think of him as an enemy that they needed to face with all of their might. The second information was the existence of Lilith, the mother of all the devils, who was also Rivism's mother. Looking at Rivism and the information about Lilith, Riser thought that this guy was SC*M among the SC*M. This guy was simply trash, but at the same time, you should call this guy the perfect devil as this guy was the perfect example of a devil how it should be. After all, whether it was him, Zekrom Bale, Surzek, or others, even if they were a devil, they didn't act like one. However, Rivism was different. He could have led his son and used his mother as a guinea pig for research. Still, based on Rivism's memory, Lilith was on the verge of dying as her body was used by her husband to give birth to the devils for the great war against the angels and the fallen angels. As for where Lilith was, it seemed that Rivism hid his mother in the realm of death, also known as the realm of Hades in Greek mythology and depths of hell. It is the place where Hades, the god of the dead, and the Grim Reapers reside. Riser thought for a moment and felt that he shouldn't do it. Moreover, he didn't have any ambitions to do so. Still, in case he made Lilith into his woman, he wondered whether his children would become an ancestor of all the devils. Riser stopped thinking as he shook his head, throwing all the strange thoughts in his head away. Nevertheless, the last piece of information was the one that attracted him the most. 666. Or Trihexa. Riser found the existence of the apocalyptic beast in the corner of the world. There was no doubt it was one of the strongest beings, if not the strongest, matching the Great Red. It seemed that Rivism planned to wake this beast into this world, destroying everything. That seems to be a good idea. Stopping this beast? Riser didn't have such an idea at all. Instead, he thought to use his Pedo no Mi to control this beast, erasing all the existence that harmed his peace. Then, when all the harmful beings were eliminated in this world, he would be the only one and gain his peace. With that idea on his mind, Riser didn't plan to K*LL Cruisery, Shalba, Euclid, or even Rivism. Instead, they were going to become his tools. They were going to erase all the harm for him, and when he had exploited their worth until nothing remained, he would K*LL all of them, so there was no existence that could harm him. By then, Riser would gain his peace and achieve his dream. Nevertheless, he knew that many would die due to this ambition, yet as he had decided to walk on this path, he was prepared. The world wanted to mess up his life, so don't blame him for destroying the world. Decisively, Riser manipulated their memories, erasing all of his clues, and made them into his tools without them realizing before he left without leaving any traces. Soon, Cruisery, Shalba, Euclid, and Risevam woke up as if nothing had happened before they continued to discuss with each other which myths they should attack. But strangely enough, at this moment, the thought of creating a fake Phoenix tears no longer crossed their minds. Meanwhile, Riser, who had walked out from the headquarters of the old Satan faction to control them from the dark side, feeling a bit disappointed since he couldn't learn Risevim's ability to nullify the sacred gear as it was innate. However, the system notified him that he got the rewards. When he checked his rewards, he was stunned by the place. My rewards are too amazing, right? Chapter 222. Riser is too strong, right? Shalba and Cruisery aside, Riser had always considered Euclid and Risevim important antagonists in this world. With all of the rewards he gained, he wouldn't be surprised if Rivism was the last boss in the story. Congratulations, you have received 5 random rewards. Nevertheless, there was no hesitation about him, and he just opened all of the rewards directly. Congratulations, you have received the Wappa no Mi complete version, Villain, Falsifier, Kote no Mi complete version, and Degenerate. As expected. When Riser had directly conquered the villain organization and made them work under his bidding, he knew the rewards he would receive would turn over his understanding of how amazing the existence of the system was. Right? In the beginning, their relationship was far from good, especially when the system kept forcing him to do something inexplicable, but the longer they were together, the more he understood how necessary the system was. Especially in a world where he could die anytime. Even though it was said that his rewards would be random, he knew that these rewards would be amazing, especially when his feats were something that no one would expect. Still, it was amazing that he got 5 rewards directly, especially when he only got 1 reward when he K*led Kateria Leviathan. Perverseness. It was an ability to move the target in the opposite manner to their will. For example, if they want to turn their head right, they will turn it left, or if they want to lift something, they will drop it instead. Frankly, with the ruler, it was possible for him to do this since, like how he could inverse all the attacks into an energy in his body. With a little training, he could also inverse the senses of his opponents. Yet, it had an even stronger effect, such as when one thought of others as a friend, one would think of others as an enemy once they were afflicted by this ability. If one wanted to heal, they would K*LL instead. With ruler alone, he was already the strongest. However, if he could get more power, then why not, right? Nevertheless, he ate the Wappa no Mi complete version, which gave him the ability to teleport. Moreover, as long as it was all related to teleportation, he could develop those techniques. Frankly, this ability was an enhanced version of Trickstar, and due to this, he was happy. That was his first reward. What about his second reward? Villain. When he saw the name of this reward, he felt conflicted, especially when the effect of this ability was to give the user the aura of a conqueror, with their actions being interpreted by others to paint them in a dominant light. It could be said that users of this SK*LL are natural-born leaders perfectly suited to rule over others. It seems that I really have to conquer the world? Once again, Riser felt that his dream was so far away that he might not be able to reach it. Whether it was his first or second reward, they were all amazing. But what about his third reward? Falsifier. It allows the user to deceive the senses of other people around them, creating a false reality where only they know the truth. For example, a spear in the user's hands may appear as a knife to their opponent, or they can make a knife appear out of thin air when one's hands appear to be empty. The user may even use it to pretend to be dead, enabling surprise counterattacks or to make a quick escape. It also makes the user especially sensitive to the illusions of others, outright making them immune to most. Did he love this ability? Naturally. After accepting this reward, Riser felt relief as there was no need for him to become a close combat fighter anymore. However, at least for now, he had to become a close combat fighter, especially when there was something that he needed to achieve. The next one. It was another devil fruit. But this devil fruit. What kind of devil fruit is this? However, Riser didn't hesitate to eat it as there was no point in milling, and gaining more power would definitely bring him a benefit instead of a disadvantage. As expected, after eating this devil fruit, he understood what his newfound power was. Kote Kote no Mi is a Paramecia-type devil fruit that allows the user to summon gauntlets with which they can grab and manipulate any non-living thing. It might be hard to just read the description, so he tried this power by summoning 2 gauntlets. It seems I can only summon 2 gauntlets. He could change the size of the gauntlets to become bigger or smaller, then manipulate them remotely. Still, there was something that he wanted to try. He manipulated the gauntlets once again and grabbed the air. Wow. By grabbing the air, he could manipulate the air, which was grabbed by the gauntlets. With this example, whatever was grabbed by his gauntlets, as long as they were non-living beings, he could control them. When this idea suddenly appeared, his breathing became heavy as he thought of a certain possibility. Calm down. Riser looked at his last reward. Degenerate. With the name of the ability being so abominable, Riser thought that it should be something linked to those strange things, but that didn't seem to be the case. Degenerate has 2 effects. Synthesis. Transform 2 differing targets into a single object and can be used to chain the effects of several SK*LLS together, earning the user new SK*LLS with significantly less effort than would otherwise be required. Separation. Releases properties inherent to the target and separates them. Examples include but are not limited to depriving a person of SK*LLS and removing foreign objects, such as entities attempting possession or toxins, from the target body. Riser fell in silence again. Wasn't this ability too amazing? In other words, it should be possible for him to take over Risavim's sacred gear canceller ability, right? There was no need for hesitation. Risavim was his tool, after all, and with how weak Risavim was, Riser was afraid that Risavim might die, so it might be too late for him to take over Risavim's ability. With that determination, Riser used his area of invisibility and teleported back to the headquarters of the old Satan faction, then went to search Risavim with his location. Unlike before, he found himself sleeping in the room, and he approached without hesitation. Riser used his Degranate, separating the sacred gear canceller ability from Risavim's body. But suddenly, the gauntlets from the Kote Kote no Mi appeared and absorbed this ability. While Riser was speechless, he sighed in relief when he could separate the sacred gear canceller with his gauntlets with Degenerate, but then again, he didn't overthink whether this ability was combined with his body or his gauntlets. It was all the same. After all, to use this sacred gear canceller, one needed to touch the target before this ability could affect the target. Having this ability on his gauntlets was moving conveniently as he could use this ability remotely. However, with this, Riser had confirmed that he could take other abilities too. Moreover, there is also that. Riser realized how overpowered his existence had become. So, after this, what would he need to do? Should he go back? Should he take over all the unique SK*LLS of powerful beings? No, there was one thing that he needed to do. Vali, get me all the information of all the leaders of the Chaos Brigade. When you have collected all of them, wait for me in Japan. I will let you know the location later. You should be ready in 12 hours. There was no need for any more words. As for whether Vali could do it or not, Vali had to do it. Nevertheless, there was something that Riser wished to try. Using location, Riser went to his target. As for Risavim, Risavim was sleeping well as he dreamed of causing destruction and mayhem in another world. Chapter 223. What will you do? Receiving an order from Riser, Vali fell into silence. Vali stayed in his place for a minute before he stood up, ready to do the order that Riser had given to him. Are you going to follow his order, Vali? Albion felt conflicted and enraged as he thought his proud host had been reduced to a mere tool. However, Vali didn't say anything as if he ignored Albion, but the truth was that he was afraid that Riser might be able to listen to their conversation. Even if he might have a short-term memory loss about who he shouldn't fight with, he still remembered the precautions and whatever he needed when he faced his opponent. Nevertheless, among all the beings that Vali had fought, Riser was the strongest. Not only was Riser the strongest, But his methods were also crueler than anyone, especially with the lives of Vala's mother and step-siblings within Riser's hands. If Vala said something wrong, then Riser heard it. What should he do? You don't need to feel afraid. After that day, he didn't do anything to you. I think that he might have used a special means to eavesdrop on you at that time. Right now, that effect might have disappeared. The word might didn't ease Vala, so he quickly just did the jobs that were asked by Riser. Compared to K*Lingserzek at that time, this job was easier. Moreover, the faster Vala finished this job, the faster the feeling inside his heart that made him uncomfortable disappeared. No, he might not have any emotion anymore after that day since he knew that he was nothing but his tools, and as a good tool, he needed to listen to him, or else. Watching Vala, who lost himself like a walking corpse every day, Albion was unable to hold it anymore, but at the same time, he knew what kind of burden Vala needed to face. Vali. Albion screamed with all of his might inside Vala's mind. Nevertheless, Vali was the same as ever. He didn't answer Albion's words and just continued his order, as he only had 12 hours. If he was late, then I know what you are worried about, but just listen to me. While there might be a chance that bastard might be able to listen to the voice within your heart, it is impossible for him to listen to me. How can you be so sure? Vali didn't ask that question as he didn't want to gain any animosity from Riser anymore. But then he knew that whatever Albion said that day, even if Albion mocked Riser, belittled him, and many others, Riser had never said anything. So there should be some truth within Albion's words. Yet, even if Vala knew what could be done, the lives of his mother and step-siblings were in Riser's hands. Moreover, no people could help him as Vali was afraid to involve them in his troubles. Even worse, Vala knew that Riser could K*LL him anytime. When Vala saw how Riser could become Lucifer, as everyone was still oblivious about everything instead of hatred, he felt fear. Yes, a fear. Vala never thought that someone could be so vile, yet no one other than him could have such an impression. Instead, everyone thought of him as the strongest being, someone who was worthy of respect, which made him feel panic, anxiety, and terror as he was targeted by such an individual. Vala knew that Riser wouldn't K*LL him, yet he wished to be K*led instead. For Vala, dying was better than living like this. Yet Vala couldn't do that, especially when the lives of his mother and step-siblings were in Riser's hands. Could Vala just run away like that? By then, Vala knew his mother's life and step-siblings would be even worse than him as they needed to bear Riser's anger. Vala didn't dare to bet, and he knew the only thing that he could do was to become an obedient tool for Riser as he followed every one of Riser's orders. Yet, Vali, let's fight, Albion suddenly said. However, Albion was ignored by Vali. Instead of living like this, where there is no shred of dignity that comes as the descendant of Lucifer and the host of the White Dragon Emperor, it is better for us to die as you bring that bastard with you to the afterlife. Vala, who had been working, stopped all of his actions, and his expressionless face suddenly regained some colors, but all of that disappeared instantly as he continued to collect all the information about the leaders of the Cows Brigade for Riser. There was some truth in Albion's words, but could he really do it? Bringing him together to the afterlife with him. It was easier than once said, especially when Riser was from the Phenex house, a devil who was famous for their immortality. No, such a possibility didn't exist at all. Even if Vala used Juggernaut Drive, there was no possibility of defeating Riser. Reduce. Albion continued the conversation without minding Vala's reaction. It is my strongest original power, which releases a special type of poison that can destroy the body and soul. When he is caught in that position, it will destroy Riser's body and soul. He might be immortal, but it is because he is immortal that he will be inflicted by this poison for an eternity. By then, his life will be even worse than dying, and he is as good as dead. However, to use this poison, not only your demonic power but also your life force might be taken out. Even with your current, the moment you use reduce, your life force will be reduced to the limit. Your long age as a half-devil might disappear, and your age might not be much different from a human by then. Even worse, you will die as it will be my first time using this poison, especially when none of the previous hosts ever used my strongest ability, so I can't give you a guarantee. As for whether Riser could escape from this poison or not, such a thing was never within Albion's thought at all. As one of the heavenly dragons, his only match was Drake. Facing his strongest poison, Riser could only writhe in pain and die. Nevertheless, to use this poison, Vala's life would also be in danger as his body might not be able to handle this power. Everything is your choice. Will you stay obedient as his tool, or will you go all out, betting everything to gain your dignity, Vala? Vali didn't say anything and just fell into silence as no one knew what he was thinking. Nevertheless, Riser didn't bother to listen to their conversation. If he wanted to listen to Vala's conversation, he needed to focus on the collar that connected to Vala's neck, but he didn't have such an idea at all since that guy was as good as over. Instead, he went to the United States, in California. As for why he was here, he was searching for the most suitable sacred gear for himself, and his ability, location, guided him into this area. Frankly, there were two places, and the two of them happened to be in the United States, but he decided to visit California first as it was the territory of his family in the human world. Nevertheless, Riser kept walking, following the direction of location, and finally found his target. Is this the one? Looking at the muscular Caucasian man in his late 20s, there was no hesitation in his heart as he made this guy pass out and steal the sacred gear within his body, trying to try the possibility of the power of Kote Kote no Mi. Chapter 224. Do you want sacred gear? To take out a sacred gear from someone, there was a certain ritual that needed to be done. Riser, who had taken all the research data about the sacred gear, naturally knew the method. However, when a sacred gear was taken out from the host's body, the host would die. Yet, this was something normal as a sacred gear was akin to part of the host's body. If Riser gave an example, it was like how one would die when their heart was taken out. Naturally, when the sacred gear was taken out, it would give a similar reaction. Frankly, if possible, Riser didn't want to commit a meaningless murder. For his enemies, he might not hesitate to K*LL, but it was different from innocents who didn't have any involvement with him. However, for a greater purpose, everything had to be done. Riser found the man in the diner as it seemed that the man was in the middle of lunch. Nevertheless, this wasn't a problem for him as he beat this guy up directly, making him pass out when he was using the area of invisibility. When he did this, there was no doubt that the people around would notice the strangeness, but with Falsifier, there was no need to worry. At this moment, everyone was already affected by an illusion, and even if all of them noticed something strange about the owner of the sacred gear, they wouldn't think anything and continued with their lunch and work as if nothing had happened. Still, Riser didn't immediately remove the sacred gear from the man. Instead, he took a peek at the memory of the man. So his name is Magnus Rose. Even though Riser didn't care much about the name of this person, he wished to know the identity of this person as he wondered whether this man was a man of importance. CIA agent? Riser was surprised as he didn't expect the CIA to be involved in the supernatural world. Frankly, the supernatural world, or this side of the world, was like the other side, and it was hidden from the majority of humans. Naturally, it included the governments of various countries, and only a few knew about them. So due to this, the existence of the supernatural was kept a secret, especially when no one wished to share it with others. It was like when one got a secret knowledge that they wished to keep by themselves instead of sharing it with others. However, the existence of the Cows Brigade destroyed everything. Due to the fake Phoenix tears that circulated within the underworld, even the governments of various countries also started to notice the existence of the supernatural world. To be honest, whether humans knew about the supernatural world or not, it didn't really matter. A human might have a number, but against the might of a supernatural being, they were nothing. The power of science might be amazing, but didn't the supernatural world master a similar thing? Moreover, the one who controlled the modern weapon was a human. As long as one controlled the leader of the human, everything would crumble. As a CIA agent who also had the power of sacred gear, Magnus was tasked to investigate the fake Phoenix tears and many anomalies that happened within various parts of the country. Nevertheless, Riser didn't care about that and just took out the sacred gear from Magnus' body with Degranate. Unknown Dictator. This is the name of the sacred gear. It was also known as the Imperial Child of Machine World. Frankly, the original ability of this sacred gear was to manipulate iron, but due to the death of God, it seemed this sacred gear had evolved further, giving it the ability to manipulate and create electronic devices and mechanical equipment of the modern day. If it was in the past, this sacred gear might not be that powerful as it lacked a punch compared to the Longinus. However, Riser knew in the modern world, this sacred gear was frightening as it could control almost everything. Information, electrical devices, weapons, and many others. Gaining the power of this sacred gear, Riser thought that it worked perfectly with Gatsa no Mi, which he had eaten previously. To be honest, he had a crazy idea. With Researcher, Blacksmith Mastery, and Gutsunomi, Riser thought to create a weapon that could watch over the world and K*LL those who thought to harm him from a distance without him needing to walk out by himself. With those thoughts, he wondered what kind of a weapon that he needed to create. However, with this unknown dictator, Riser thought of one weapon that suited his needs. Satellite. Yes, a satellite. Riser is thought to have created a satellite where it could be used to monitor the world and K*LL anyone who opposed him. Moreover, no one would be able to tell he owned this weapon as he manipulated it remotely, and it was located in space. Unless one went to space, it was simply impossible for anyone to find or destroy it. His idea might be crazy, but he knew that it was possible. With all of the SK*LLS he had collected, this project was possible to be realized. Wait. It should be possible for me to train in space, right? Riser knew that training on Earth was almost meaningless for him, and training in space seemed to be more beneficial for him as the harsh environment in space seemed to be able to make him grow stronger. Should I go to space? Riser looked up and thought for a moment before he shook his head. There were still many things that he needed to do on Earth, and it might be better to go to space after he solved all of those problems. To be honest, with his speed, it wouldn't be a problem for him to go to space, but he felt that he might as well wait until he created the satellite weapon that he envisioned. As he got his hands on the sacred gear, he looked at Magnus, who still passed out. K*ling him was easy as he knew that he had the power to do so, but he decided to use the power of his Memo Nomi. Echo Erasure. Riser said those words softly, and all the memories of unknown dictator were erased from this world. Not only the humans who had such a recollection of this sacred gear, but all the supernatural beings. Still, he didn't expect that it would take so much of his demonic power. Nevertheless, it didn't matter as he wished to clear up everything and erase the existence of this sacred gear, so no one could tell that he had taken this sacred gear from Magnus. Moreover, with his perfect crime, he also erased all the traces of this sacred gear, whether it was from heaven, Gregory, or anywhere else. Every trace of this sacred gear was erased from this world, and the only one who knew about the existence of this sacred gear was him. Moreover, Riser also modified Magnus' memory so this guy wouldn't notice something amiss within his memory. He wasn't in a hurry and did it slowly, as it was also a way for him to practice his new power. Nevertheless, he had to say that this technique was amazing and probably also worked on individuals as he could make someone's existence forgotten by everyone. Yet, compared to the Memo Nomi, Riser was more impressed at the ability of perfect crime, as it could alter reality so it would erase the existence of the unknown dictator from this world. Fortunately, this was just a normal sacred gear, and it wasn't Longinus, so it was easier to erase. However, Riser knew that it would be different from Longinus, and the energy he needed to use would be so enormous that he would alter the memories of powerful beings. Nevertheless, everything was worth it. After all, the potential of this sacred gear wasn't lost to any Longinuses. Moreover, his hard work to not K*LL someone just because he wished to steal a sacred gear also bore him to develop a frightening ability. Still, Riser looked at the time and saw that there was still time, so he went to Texas to get another sacred gear, which was suitable for him. As Riser left, Magnus and the others weren't affected by the illusion once again, and they returned to how they used to be without noticing anything, as if it was just any other day. Chapter 225, Venom. Oh, you are on time. Riser only nodded when he saw Vali had already arrived at their appointment place. He had just stolen his second sacred gear, and as expected, it suited him well. Moreover, he could use them well without any problems. Was it due to the Kote Nomi? There is a huge chance it happened due to that. However, because of that, Riser was so late. He was late for at least 6 hours, yet Vali was still in the place without moving and came without saying a single complaint, completing his order perfectly, which made him satisfied, thinking that he got his hands on a perfect tool. Whenever Riser needed to erase someone, he did not need to move by himself as he could order Vali to erase those people. Still, Riser knew that Vali wasn't a character that would obediently follow his every order, and he knew that this guy was stupid, so he had to take precautions. The information about the Cows Brigade, which Riser previously asked for from Vali, was nothing but a bluff, a test for Vali. After all, by taking a peek at the memory of the leaders of the old Satan faction, did he lack information about this terrorist organization? What Riser wished to do was to erase all of his existence from the crime of K*Ling Surzek. No one should know that he was the one who initiated the K*Ling of Surzek. Everyone in this world only needed to know that it was Vala who did it. That way, all those who wished to avenge Surzek would come to K*LL Valley instead of Riser. So when was he going to K*LL Valley? It was when Vala helped him to K*LL a certain someone Riser would K*LL Vala, as he put all the blame on Vala before he became someone whom everyone looked up to. Riser knew that his method was complicated and tedious, especially when he could K*LL anyone with ease, but K*Ling someone had been troublesome, especially in the aftermath. If his target was just a reclusive hermit, then it was easy. However, his target was someone who had a lot of connections, family, friends, and many other things. If Riser K** led all of them, it would be a massacre, and he would receive a tyrant as a title. Being feared might be good, but being a tyrant had never been his way of life as it was troublesome. Being a normal, powerful person was the best way. Still hearing his words, Vala said nothing and just lowered his head. Was it due to nervousness? Was it due to fear? Or was Vali afraid that Riser would notice something? However, Riser didn't care about all of that, as Vali was nothing but an ant that he could crush anytime. Still, for Vala, who saw Riser for the first time after a while, he could feel that his heart was almost crushed and almost gave up as his will was about to be dominated. Riser didn't realize that at that moment, his villain ability gave him an aura that could easily dominate anyone's mind. Where's the data? Vala took out a Doc * mint that he kept on his jacket and gave it to Riser. He might not have said anything, but his actions were submissive, as if he had clearly given up. There is also a photo, right? Yes. Let me check it first. Riser opened the Doc * mints and saw all the information about the leaders of the Cows Brigade from the Old Satan faction, the Magician faction, and the Hero faction. The Old Satan faction, the Magician faction, was led by Euclid, but Euclid didn't attract Riser's interest. Instead, he was interested in Walburga, a female magician who was also the host of Incinerate Anthem. Incinerate Anthem is a Longinus, and it is one of the 3 holy relics, the holy cross on which Christ was crucified. Its special ability is to create purple holy flames in the form of a cross that can incinerate devils with ease. Flammability? However, unlike a regular flame, it had a holy attribute. Riser felt interested in this Longinus, but he didn't show much of a change in his expression and looked into the Old Satan faction like it was his first time to know them before he looked into the Hero faction of the Cows Brigade. Reading the information about the Hero faction within the Cows Brigade, Riser had to admit that this group was amazing as it was led by a group of humans who were also the hosts of sacred gears. What was even more impressive was that the leader of this group was the holder of the strongest Longinus, the true Longinus. Moreover, there were also other Longinus users in this group, such as Annihilation Maker and Dimension Lost. There were also other sacred gear users, but Riser ignored all of them as they wouldn't pose a threat to him. The true Longinus, Annihilation Maker, and Dimension Lost. Riser wished to get all of them somehow. If it was before, it might not be possible, but with Kote Kote no Mi, everything was possible. Yet, he wasn't greedy since he thought to learn his current sacred gears first as he had just freshly received them. Moreover, he had a feeling that the Hero faction would appear in front of him, and he thought that he could use them to K*LL the cockroach that had been annoying him. However, when Riser turned his back, Vali, who had been silent, was in a storm of thoughts. As he stared into Riser's broad back, Vali thought about Surzek, whom he had K** led before. It was the same as before. That day, Surzek showed his back to him, completely oblivious to everything. This time, it was the same. Vali, no matter what your decision is, I will support you. Albion said at the time, it was within Vali's mind. Vali was in silence, but he clenched his hands tightly, trying to fight Riser's aura that tried to reduce him into a mere tool. He knew that Albion had given him his full support, and because of that, the will within his heart hadn't been broken by Riser. Reduce. Even though Albion had said it lightly before, Vala knew that it was Albion's most hated ability. At that time, Albion was lonely due to this poison. No one could approach him. No one could talk to him. Everything, and anything that came to him, would be reduced into nothingness due to this poison. It was something that he wished to forget, but the pain in Vala's heart woke his memory that was long sealed within the sacred gear. Reduce might be an abominable power, yet it was a hope to save Vali and his family. Yet, as expected, the price of this power was horrible. If Vala dared to use it, then his age was as good as gone. He couldn't live a long life like a devil. Instead, he would die like any other human. Worse, he might only have a few years of life due to using this ability forcefully, as his body couldn't support this hideous power. Yet, it was also a chance. It was a chance to escape from the shackles of this demon. At that moment, the fire that was almost dimmed and could die any time suddenly went amazing. There's no way I would let him hurt my family. The flame of rage burst fiercely within his heart. Vali knew that his method was dirty as he attacked Riser from the back. Yet he knew except for this method, he knew it was impossible to have a frontal battle against Riser. The only way for him to erase this demon was by a sneak attack. Vali. Along with the roar of Albion, Vali used his everything. Whether it was his demonic power, stamina, or even his life force, Vali used everything. Vali even used the power of Lucifer that resided within his body, spreading 12 devil wings from his back and using this most abominable power into Riser. Venom. At that time, a dreadful aura emitted from Vali as it was charged into Riser. As expected, Riser was hit by Venom, the most abominable ability that Albion hated the most. Yet, boom. Half of Vali's body was reduced directly to ashes by Riser's kick, which was clad in intense flame. Have to mention, Vali screamed with all of his might, stopping the flame that was about to swallow his body while absorbing the flame as he endured the pain of a disabled body. Yet, even with such pain, Vali and Albion were happy. We've won. 2x. However, they didn't realize what kind of a demon that they had awoken. Chapter 226. You have made me genuinely angry. Nevertheless, the power of Riser's kick was so powerful that Vali was thrown several kilometers away and crashed into trees and animals before his body embedded into a mountain, shaking the entire area like an earthquake. Due to the impact, everything that Vali passed was destroyed, and they were burnt into nothingness. Even the earth was still burnt and charred before turning into magma due to the intense heat. It was simply a scene of a disaster. The happiness of K*Ling the demon soon disappeared as Vali felt his half-dimension, an ability to be half the size of objects and living beings around the user, was meaningless when facing this fire. It's useless. This cold voice brought a chill to the hearts of Vali and Albion. My flame is impossible to extinguish. As long as you are hit by it, your body will continue to be burned forever. So what? Even if we die? You will also die along with us. Albion shouted in defiance as if they wanted to show that Riser wasn't the only one who had the upper hand. You have been hit by my poison. Reduce. My poison is able to reduce all existences aside from inorganic objects. As long as it's a living being, its blood, bones, organs, and soul can be cut down bit by bit. So even for extraordinary beings, everything in their bodies can be reduced. You might be immortal, but your existence is meaningless in front of this poison. Riser. This is your end, Riser. Vali coughed as he tried to push Riser's flame away from his body. It was fortunate Riser's kick previously only hit his left side, so even if his prosthetic left hand was gone, it didn't matter. Unfortunately, he also lost his left leg along with some part of his left part. But it didn't matter as he had won this battle. You are too arrogant. This is your demise. Is that so? Vali and Albion didn't care about Riser's calm answer as they knew Riser had already been defeated. As for the fact that they might die after this, they didn't care since they had already defeated the demon who plagued their lives. But then, your family will die. Bastard! At that moment, the power within Vali burst out once again. Vali, who lost his mind due to his anger, was going to shred Riser into pieces. Reflect. This was one of Albion's original abilities, and when Vali used this ability, the flame that burnt on his boy was reflected back to Riser. Riser's flame might be eternal, but it didn't mean it was invincible. While the way to defeat this flame might be limited, or almost none, especially when the ability of divine dividing was meaningless, Albion happened to have a reflect, and it was capable of reflecting Riser's flame back. You have made him angry, Riser Phenex. Die in agony as you regret your action. Ergeg. Die. Razir. At that moment, Vali didn't care about anything and used everything to K*LL Riser, who had K*led his family. Albion didn't stop Vali as he was also enraged by Riser's act. Nevertheless, Riser, who stared at the two, fell into silence, wondering how the two could be so angry when they planned to K*LL him. Did they think that they could escape unscathed after they had attacked him? Riser wasn't as naive as Surzek, and as he had decided to K*LL someone, he had prepared himself to be K*led. Yet, Riser had to say that he underestimated someone's stupidity. Did Vali not learn with the gap between their power that everything was meaningless? However, Riser knew that he had underestimated the stupidity of Vali and Albion. As Vali used his everything, whether it was the power of Lucifer and Albion at the same time, Riser just stayed in silence as his body grew stronger and stronger due to all the attacks he received. Yet, like Vala, Riser's heart was also in fury as he faced many unreasonableness in this world. Oblivious about everything, Vali used his life as an energy to burst an unbelievable power to defeat this enemy. In his mind, Riser had to be K*led. This guy was an enemy that had K*led his family, and he definitely wouldn't forgive him for that. Yua. Along with Vala's furious roar, Albion was also affected by the emotion of his host, and once again, his being that terrorized this world previously appeared and gave his everything to Vali. There was no way for them to forgive this guy. This guy had to be K*led. The feeling of anger and hatred fueled their power, but as they attacked Riser, the feeling in their hearts slowly turned into confusion, desperation, and fear. Why? 2x. They have used everything yet, why was Riser completely unscathed? Why did Riser seem to become even stronger? The more they attacked Riser, the stronger Riser became. Even worse, Vala's energy consumption was so ridiculously high that he was almost at his wit's end. As the two became desperate and confused, Riser stared at Vali and said, "I'm not sure why you love to explain what your technique is about, but think of this as a gift of our parting. All of your attacks, whether it is that blast of energy, the poison that you used previously, or every attack which you have pride in, all of them become part of my strength, healing me and making me stronger. This is my power, the ruler." Impossible. 2x. The scream of denial came from Vali and Albion. What such an unreasonable power existed? Then, what was the point of their struggle? If all of their attacks would become nourishments for Riser to become stronger, then, what was the point of doing all of this? If they knew all of this, why did they have to attack Riser? Vali. Albion felt endless regret as it was he who took the initiative to tell Vala to fight Riser. However, if he didn't say it, would they face this helpless situation? What was scary wasn't a situation where there was no hope to begin with. What was scary was a situation where someone told you there was hope, yet they realized that they had been fooled and crushed as there was no hope to begin with. Vala realized this feeling and realized how foolish he was. All of his struggles were nothing but futile, and the price of all of this was the lives of his family. Vali wished to say something, but goodbye, Vali. This will be the last time we will meet each other, and you don't need to worry since everyone who is related to you will be coming toward you soon. Vala's eyes widened as he wished to scream, begging, asking for forgiveness, yet he had made Riser genuinely angry. Goodbye. That was the last word Vala heard from him before his world turned into darkness. Everything was over, Vali and Albion thought. Yet, the two of them didn't die, as Riser didn't let them die. However, this would be their last time to meet each other. Riser had made his plan, and living with Vali was still necessary for him, yet when he saw him, he couldn't hold his urge, and the fury within his heart erupted. Chapter 227. It's all because of that bitch. Raising his foot, Riser stomped Vala's side, causing the whole island to sink slightly due to the impact. Why the hell you have to attack me? Why the hell you try to provoke me? Why do you want to destroy my life? Can you just search for someone else? Why can you just let me have a normal life? Why do you want to force me to become a murderer? Why do you want me to experience all of this? Why? If you were weak, then why you pretend like you were strong? If you were strong, then why do you come to fight me instead of those who are above, like Ophis, Ajuka, or even the Great Red? Why me? Riser roared with all of his might, destroying everything within the island and stopping his urge to K*ll Valley. It was fortunate that he had set up their meeting on the small island on the Pacific Ocean. If their meeting was held on the mainland of Japan, he was sure that they would attract so much attention, and it was impossible to hide anything, especially with the damage caused by his anger. After he screamed and destroyed everything, Riser slumped on the ground and just murmured, "I just want to have a peaceful life. Why is it so difficult?" Riser had never wished to become a villain. Yet, why did everyone wish for him to become a villain? Did they think that it was comfortable to K*ll others? Did they think that he enjoyed this role? Why was he forced into this role? To be honest, K*ling everything would be easier, but he knew that if he K*led all of those beings who interrupted him with his own hands, there was no doubt that those who were related to those who were K*led by him would send their revenge at him. Even though they knew they didn't have power, they wouldn't give up and use their everything, struggling to annoy him to death. K*LL, 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 and K*LL. How long did he have to endure this kind of life? Sometimes, he thought what Ravel had proposed to him previously wasn't as bad as he thought, since that way, he could have a peaceful life without being troubled by others. Only the two of them, living together, without anyone bothering them. Such a life definitely wasn't bad. Yet, when he thought how those who had interrupted his life would be living in heaven, full of laughter, and standing above others, being looked up by everyone as if it was something natural, it pissed him off. Why did he have to hide just for those cockroaches? Why did he have to sacrifice his comfortable life just for them? Riser suddenly wondered how everything started. If he thought carefully, everything started with his father and Lord Gremory, who wished to engage him with Rias. By then, Surzek, who wished his little sister to marry someone she wished to, was the holder of boosted gear, Issei Hayadu. However, such a problem wasn't a problem anymore, as Surzek had already died. Yet, the source of all of this problem was still living well and even comfortably. Rias Gremory. When Riser thought about this bitch, he suddenly felt furious, as he thought that this was the source of all the trouble. If this woman didn't exist, would he have to face all of this trouble? Would he have to fight Vali? Would he be forced to K*LL Vali's parents? Would he be forced to create a conspiracy and manipulate everyone so many would die? Would he be forced to become a target of hatred of that perverted dragon? Would he be forced to become a villain? Why did he have to work hard until he bled while feeling afraid that he might be K*led the next day? Yet, he knew that this woman was the main heroine, so he might subconsciously ignore the cause and effect caused by this woman for his life. His lust for Rias' body, appearance, and B*OSS blinded him, making his judgment blunt and blind, as he never realized the source of all of his trouble. However, he was no longer blind and knew that this woman was the cause of everything. Still, what made him angry was the fact that while he faced this tough and almost tortured life, enduring everything as he was unable to say to anyone about his problem, while Rias was still living well and even thought of herself as a tragic heroine who wished to make her family grow and avenge her older brother by using him, and also Issei like they were her slaves. Riser sighed and realized how stupid he was while thinking how lucky a man he was for having Sona. Yet, at the same time, he also thought that Sona was too naive, as she thought that Rias' life was pitiful. Still, due to this, there was no hesitation anymore. Riser then looked at Vala, who was still living, which made him sigh, thinking that the power of the plot was really amazing. However, he didn't intend to heal Vali. Instead, he manipulated Vala's memory with his Memo no Mi. As he had said before, it would be their last time to meet each other. In Vala's memory, Riser changed the culprit of Vala's misfortune into another person. Nevertheless, everything had to be perfect, and he had to fully erase his existence from Vala's memory except for their meeting during the attack on Kuo, so Vali wouldn't question the strangeness that happened within his memory. The Memo no Mi was powerful and all, but once the target noticed the inconsistency within their memories, they would notice their memory had been manipulated. It was also the reason why he had to think about what kind of memory he should put into Vala's brain carefully. First, Riser made the culprit blur, a black existence that wasn't known by Vali. However, behind this existence was the face of Vala's grandfather, Risavim, so the moment Vala realized everything, he would put all the blame on Risavim. Yet, this wasn't enough. Riser put another identity behind Risavim, making this person the real source of Vala's misfortune. As for him, Riser was nothing but a powerful opponent that had cut Vala's left hand previously. He had nothing to do with everything that happened to Vali after that. When he was done and everything was finished, Riser wasn't in the mood to stay or glance at Vala's face for a single second. After this, the two of them would be strangers. Still, he didn't want anyone to see how horrible his mood was, so he thought about how to solve this problem. Still, in case someone helped Vala, he also decided to put his existence in Vala's memory, since, as an important character in the story, Vala's luck was quite good. Moreover, to play with the fire, he needed to let himself be burnt so no one would question him. Yet, even so, he knew this wasn't perfect, but it didn't matter, since what he wanted was just to bait everyone who wished to K*LL him, so that he could clear them up altogether. When everything was finished, suddenly he got an idea. Riser took his smartphone and called someone. "Darling." Akeno's voice was excited, yet also relatively low, as it seemed that she was still in the occult research club. Nevertheless, she didn't want to make him wait, but she knew if the others knew about their relationship, it would lead to a troublesome situation. However, Riser didn't care about any of that. Akeno, prepare your luggage. Come with me on a trip. At that moment, Riser's heart felt better as he thought he was about to put Rias in her place. Chapter 228, Avenger. Receiving a call from Riser, Akeno was startled as it was the first time since he would usually come to her house secretly without anyone noticing. However, she didn't want to make him wait, so she answered quickly, even if there were many others around her. As she walked away, the rest also took notice of Akeno's strangeness. Akeno-san. Issei felt confused since, even if it was only for a moment, he felt a strangeness in Akeno's expression. It was as if he knew her for the first time, as he had never known that she could show such an expression. The rest wasn't much better except for Kaneko, who knew the source of everything. Haha, probably it is her boyfriend. Azazel said with a laugh, ignoring everyone's expression after he said those words. After the promise he had made previously, he took the job of becoming Rias' advisor, training her along with her peerage members, unlike when he made a promise to give his everything to save Vali during the attack on the Kuo Academy, where he lied and didn't even uphold his promise. This time, Azazel really did it, and to do that, he became the advisor of the Occult Research Club. Azazel knew that what he did was ridiculous, especially when he wished to make Issei stronger. This act, without a doubt, would cause him to be hated by Riser, but even so, he had to do it since they lacked power. If Riser is really the one, then there was no doubt that Issei's power was needed. Moreover, Issei's growth also astonished him. After all, Issei was nothing but an ordinary, perverted boy, yet now he had become quite a strong young man. But even if it wasn't Riser and it was someone else, there was no doubt that Issei's strength was needed. The more, the better, right? However, he hoped that the one who caused everything wasn't Riser. Still, Azazel took everything with an easygoing attitude since being serious wasn't his style, and it would bring them into an unnecessary thought. Moreover, he didn't want the suspect to notice him, who had secretly started his investigation along with his subordinates. Nevertheless, it surprised him when Rias accepted his help with ease. As for Akeno, well, Azazel owed a lot of things to Akeno, especially when he was the one who called Betrayal, her father, to do a mission, leaving the daughter and mother in a helpless situation. His guilt at that time couldn't be erased, and it was also due to this that if Akeno was happy, he was glad no matter who her partner was. Nevertheless, Azazel could imagine that Betrayal would cry when he heard all of this. However, Rias was different and frowned as she felt unsettled when she thought Akeno was stolen by someone she didn't know. Yet, could she say anything? No way. Unlike before, Rias knew that her status was far worse than Akeno's. It was also due to this that she didn't hesitate to accept Azazel's help, even though Azazel was also partly blamed for the death of Surzek. Rias was no longer Lucifer's little sister when Surzek passed away. At that moment, she was just a normal heiress of the Gremory house. Meanwhile, Akeno was the daughter of the leader of the Gregory, Betrayal. Even if there was the strongest queen, Grafia, after the funeral of Surzek, Grafia disappeared, which made Rias and her family restless. Yet, there was nothing that Rias could do, especially when Grafia couldn't be found anymore. To be honest, she wished to ask Riser's help, especially when she found out that he seemed to have a good channel to find various other things. However, the sudden words that came out of Azazel's mouth stunned her. Boyfriend? No way. There is no way that Akeno-san has a boyfriend. I won't believe it. The one who reacted the most was Issei. Even though the relationship between Issei and Akeno wasn't as close as in the original, or rather, they were somewhat distant, Issei felt that they were quite close. Especially when she didn't ignore him, and she also prepared him a paper sutra to help him with his arm, which was sacrificed for Drake to become stronger during his match with Riser. Moreover, when he accepted the Ascalon from Michael, Akeno was also there to help. With all of that, there was no way Issei would accept the fact that Akeno had a boyfriend. Hearing Issei's outburst, Rias somehow calmed down and knew that there was no need for her to confront Akeno directly as she didn't want their relationship to turn stiff due to the suspicion. However, if Akeno had a boyfriend, who would be her partner? Somehow, a picture of a certain someone emerged in her heart and made her heart almost stop. Nevertheless, due to the words from Azazel, the atmosphere in the clubroom turned weird. The second became longer, and it was hard to breathe. It wasn't until Akeno returned that all the eyes were focused on her. Akeno-san, you don't have a boyfriend, right? Issei almost jumped and leaped into Akeno, but Akeno dodged him fully and looked at him in disgust for a moment before she showed her usual graceful expression. I have just received a job. It might take a while to return, though. Is that so? That's great. Issei sighed in relief. How long will you go? Rias asked calmly, yet her heart was far from calm. Probably 3 days? I can't make a promise, though, but I will need to go back early as I need to prepare. Akeno showed an apologetic expression since she had to leave early. Issei was happy to know that Akeno didn't have a boyfriend, and he cheered her to do her best. The rest wasn't much better as they didn't have any suspicion. Akeno had no history of lying, so why should they doubt their partner? Okay, do your best, Akeno. Thank you, Rias. Akeno smiled softly and then left by using a teleportation circle as she didn't want to make him wait too long. Rias only nodded, then waited for a few minutes before she said, Oh, right. I also remember that I have something to do. What? Then, see you. By the way, Rias looked at Kaneko. Kaneko, come with me. Kaneko. As her heart was beating so fast, Kaneko couldn't do anything and just followed Rias. With 3 left, there were only others left, and Issei could only cry as there weren't enough B*OSS in the clubroom. Everyone. Still, what no one knew, Rias came to follow Akeno with Kaneko. When a suspicion was born, it was impossible to stop it. Kaneko knew a storm was about to come, but there was nothing she could do. Nevertheless, as she was ordered by Rias, she could only follow her order, trying to follow Akeno. It was just a few minutes, and it had just been a while since Akeno left, yet it surprised them that they found her at the train station. Rias was confused, but the closer she came, the more unsettled her heart was. Then, there, Rias found Akeno. Akeno entered the train, but she wasn't alone. A familiar figure stood by her side, and Akeno showed a happy smile as she held his arm intimately as they entered the train at the same time. Only Rias felt her world turn gray as she had never expected this betrayal. Why? At the same time, on the ruined island, a figure rose from death as his heart was filled with revenge. Chapter 229, Staring You from the Dark. Under the heavy rain, Vali, whose body was riddled with wounds, stared at the scene before him with coldness in his heart. His body was full of pain, yet all of that was incomparable to the cry of the 3 figures in the distance. His heart was wretched, and he had never thought that everything would become like this. Ararark. Vali. Albion could sense how desolate that was in Vali's heart. Vali, you should rest. With your current situation, you might die. After that fight, Vali didn't seem to care about anything, and he just flew into Italy to see his family, ignoring his wounded body that needed a rest. However, Vali ignored that reminder as there was something that he needed to do. He needed to check and protect his family, yet everything was too late. Nevertheless, the one who died wasn't his mother or step-siblings. Instead, it was the man who married his mother after she lost her memory. Watching how his mother and step-siblings cried in the rain, huddled weakly together, like an animal that needed a sense of security during the weak moment, Vali felt that his pain was nothing compared to the one that he had caused to his family. Why? Vali cried as he fell to the ground, ignoring the dirty mud on his body and rained body. He wished to die and atone for everything, but he knew the reason why that person only K** led his stepfather was to tell him that he could give misery to his mother and step-siblings. It's my fault. No, it's your fault, Vali. You shouldn't blame yourselves. If I didn't tell you about my original attack and incite you to attack him, then this wouldn't happen. Albion regretted his arrogance as he thought he was above everyone else. If he didn't give Vali false hope and also instigated Vali to aggravate that man further, then would this happen? However, there was no medicine for regret. Vali knew that at this moment, the only thing he could do was to become his tool obediently. Vali. However, suddenly he heard a familiar voice. His consciousness was hazy due to the pain and exhaustion, but when he thought about how his family died, he forced himself to go far away to Italy. It was also because of this he wished to be alone. He didn't want to involve anyone with him. He didn't want to feel this sadness anymore. Stay away from me. They should stay away from him. At this moment, Azazel, the members of the Dog, and all the members of Vali's team saw the miserable appearance of Vali. The proud descendant and the host of the White Dragon Emperor was no longer there. What appeared to be a broken young man who could fall any time. Their hearts were filled with sadness as they came too late. However, Vali didn't intend to talk with them and just left by forcing himself to fly away, but the others wouldn't let him go. No, you need to recuperate. Your wounds are too serious. You even lose your left leg now. Vali, do you want to die? Vali, please rely on us. They all huddled into him, trying to stop him from flying. Vala, who was weak, was unable to move and could only cry. No, stay away from me. As long as you are with me, you are going to die. I don't want you all to die. Haha, we're not weak, Vali. Have you forgotten how we fought together a few years ago? Not only have you become stronger, I have become stronger too. Samejima Cookie laughed, telling Vala to have confidence in them. Yes, as long as we are together, we can do anything. Vali, don't be scared. We will be here with you. Share your burden with us. You want to fight with me? Yes, if you believe in us, we can defeat this enemy together. Don't make me laugh. Suddenly, something snapped within Vala's mind as he roared at everyone in this place. Fighting that person? Have you become stronger? You can't even protect my stepfather, even with this many people. How laughable. You don't even come when I need someone's help the most. Even if you are all gathered together, you are nothing but a small fry in front of him. Facing him, all of you are meaningless. To be honest, you are all a burden to me. Just Fu * King, leave me alone. Facing those words, they were unable to say anything. Even if they had become powerful, they couldn't even protect Vala's stepfather and could only come late as they watched his stepfather die just like that. Vali didn't care about their silence and just left as he didn't want to involve them, but suddenly, he felt sleepy before he was caught by someone. Just rest. Vali wanted to resist, but couldn't as he fell asleep due to a magic spell. Azazel, who had caught Vala, felt his heart was filled with fury and sadness as he was unable to do anything, and he wished to K*LL the person who had caused this misery to Vali. He had always thought of Vali as his own son, so when he saw Vali was treated like this, how could he remain calm? Thank you, Governor Azazel. But you should be careful as that person might be able to listen to our conversation. You don't need to worry. I have placed a barrier around us. It would be impossible for anyone to eavesdrop on our conversation. If that's the case, I feel relief. Somehow, Albion couldn't shake the feeling of restlessness in his heart. Governor, I want to K*LL the bastard who had done this to Vali. Me too. We can't let this person torment Vala like this. I want to, but we still need to know who our opponent is. Azazel also felt anger, but unlike the youngsters around him, he still needed to know who their opponent was. Albion, who is this person? Who was the one who caused Vala to be in this state? Everyone fell in silence as they waited for Albion's answer, but I don't know. What? Everyone frowned as this wasn't the answer they expected. Are you sure, Albion? I don't know. I don't know who this person is, but I don't think anyone in this world can defeat him. Albion's voice was filled with fear and trembling without him even realizing it, causing all of them to feel tense, realizing their opponents were scarier than they had imagined. While I don't want to say this, the moment you came in contact with Vala, you had become the target of this person. There's no way, right? One of the girls suddenly said with a light laugh, trying to lighten the mood, but Albion could only apologize. I am sorry. All of them felt a shudder on their skin as if they could feel an existence observing them from behind, yet when they turned, they could see nothing. The fear came from an unknown. They didn't even know who their enemies were, so how could they anticipate his attack? However, even so, I won't let Vala bear this alone. Like how he helped me before, this time, I will be the one who will help him. Tobio accused made the determination clear. His words also resonated with everyone's heart, and they swore that they were going to protect Vali. At this moment, Riser was staring at the street in the Akita as he sipped his coffee. 11 people, huh? Riser closed his eyes for a moment, then erased some of his memories inside his head before he decided to enjoy his trip. Chapter 230, Hurt. Many might find it strange how Riser enjoyed his trip with Akeno, even after all of that. The answer was simple. Riser simply erased his memories. Well, he didn't exactly erase his memory, but he sealed some of them in a special folder so it wouldn't interrupt his life. K*ling someone might seem easy, especially for those supernatural beings. If Riser made an illusion, it was like how a human easily K*let a mosquito. The K*ling act was probably something similar to this act. However, it was impossible for Riser to think the same as he was just a normal human previously, and he often dreamed that those he had K*led would pull him into the abyss the next day. Frankly, in the beginning, it was okay, but when he did the K*ling during the fake Phoenix Tears incident, he decided to erase the memories of those people that he had K*led. The number that he K*led was too much. While he acted like he didn't care and nothing had happened, he was forced to do so as he could only be strong in the supernatural world. However, he He thought of a solution by erasing some of the memories so he could act like nothing had happened. If he wasn't forced to, he wouldn't K*LL, and it was the same with his act to K*LL Vali's stepfather, as it gave him a bitter taste in his mouth. It was also due to this that he sealed that memory so it wouldn't dampen his mood during this trip. Currently, he is in Takayama, a city on the mountain and a famous resort city in this country. If there was a reason why he chose this city, it was because it was close to Kuo, so there was no need for them to waste their time on the train for a day or so. What about his warp fruit? Shouldn't he be able to teleport? If he used his teleportation, then there was no way for his target to follow him, right? Riser wished a certain someone to know that he had dated Akeno and made this certain someone realized her place. What are you thinking about? Akeno asked curiously as she saw her man seemed to be in the middle of a thought. To be honest, in her childhood time, she had traveled to every part of the country to fill her stomach and worked as an exorcist. Naturally, Takayama was one of those cities that she had been in. However, unlike before, she was with someone that she loved. Due to this, it made her think that this city was the most beautiful city in the world. I just think how wonderful it is for us to be together like this. Geez, don't say something so embarrassing, okay? Nevertheless, Akeno leaned on his arm intimately, showing how happy she was. There was no doubt that this action would make anyone fall for this young woman. However, Riser had to say, her body was too erotic. Even if he just wished to have a normal trip with Akeno, it seemed that it was impossible for him to endure the temptation of her body. Kissing her forehead, he held her in his arms as they discussed which places they should visit today. They would spend 3 days in this city while spending their entire time in the hotel would be one of the most obvious choices. Touring around the city definitely wasn't a bad choice. However, as they talked, Akeno couldn't help but voice out her concern. Darling. Do you think everything will be okay? What are you worried about? What if Rias knows our relationship? Even though she was happy with this trip, she knew how crappy her lie was. A job? Would Rias believe that she spent a few days on a job? Akeno didn't think so, and she was sure that Rias would feel suspicious about their relationship. However, Riser was confused. Should Akeno not realize how amazing her status was? Rias was no longer the most beautiful flower in the flower garden. Instead, the one most beautiful one was definitely Akeno. Without Surzek, Rias' status was nothing. The reason why the Gremory could stand high was all due to Surzek. The moment Surzek died, everything crumbled as there was no one they could rely on except for Surzek. To be honest, the moment Surzek died, the super family that everyone could only look up to crumbled and became a middle-class family at best. If there was a reason why the Gremory house could maintain its status, it was all due to the status of Lady Gremory, who was the sister of Lord Bale and also one of the main descendants of the House of the Bale House. Without that status, the Gremory house was only SOSO in terms of power, especially when their innate ability wasn't that particularly strong. Meanwhile, Akeno was different. She was the only daughter of the leader of the Gregory, Betrayal. Even though their relationship was stiff due to past incidents, they were still a family. If Akeno received trouble, Betrayal and the entire Gregory would definitely move. Even if Akeno wished to part away from Rias peerage members, the Gremory house was unable to do anything. However, Akeno didn't seem to realize that. Riser also didn't bother to remind her as it was troublesome to explain. If you were worried, just tell her that you were forced by me. By then, she will blame me instead of you. How could it work that way? I was the one who seduced you, after all. The one who made the first move was her, and he wasn't at fault, especially when she wished for this relationship. Akeno, I am Lucifer now, and you are my woman. You don't need to worry about anything, as no one will trouble you. Only now does Akeno realize that her man is different from the past. Riser is no longer the third son of Phenex house or the son-in-law of the Citri house. Instead, he was someone who stood above all the devils, Lucifer. There was no doubt she was happy, but she didn't date him due to his status. She was with him because she loved him, and that fact wouldn't change whether it was now or in the future. Instead of thinking about this, how about we go back to the hotel? We can continue our trip later at night. Akeno stared at Riser and thought that something never changed, even if he was different from the past. However, she didn't hate it. Still, what Akeno didn't know was that her movement had been stared at by 2 people who had been following them. Watching the intimate action between Akeno and Riser, Rias ground her teeth in a complex mood. She was angry, envious, and even had a hatred toward Akeno, especially when Akeno dared to do this to her. Yet at the same time, she didn't dare to make Akeno angry as she didn't want her to leave her. While Rias might appear strong, she knew how anxious she was. The loss of Surzek, the decline of her family, and the hopelessness she felt as the heiress of the Gremory house due to her lack of strength. The only thing she could trust was her peerage members, as they couldn't betray her, and they would give their all to support her. Yet, such loyalty couldn't be maintained anymore. The moment she lacked her protector, Surzek, she was nothing. At this moment, Rias realized all of that with the cruelest method that one had ever thought of. Why? Why did they have to do this to her? What did she do wrong? Rias felt that she was no longer the beautiful swan that could proudly look down on anyone. Instead, she realized how desperate her real situation was, like how the duck desperately moved its legs under the surface of the water. Did you know this, Kaneko? Rias hoped that Kaneko wouldn't betray her, but Kaneko couldn't say anything and could only lower her head. I see. Rias thought that Kaneko could be the one that she could trust, but it seemed that she couldn't. Yet, she also couldn't blame Kaneko. After all, she also knew that if Kaneko dared to report their relationship, what would happen to Kaneko? However, there was no doubt that she was disappointed in Kaneko's action. In this world, who could she rely on? At this moment, Rias realized how amazing the privilege she received in his childhood when Surzek was beside her. She couldn't stop her tears and stared at Akeno, who was so intimate with Riser as they had their little trip. Rias just stood there in silence, staring at them, without saying anything. This was a betrayal, but there was nothing she could do except endure everything, as she didn't have the power to stop their relationship. Or rather, she should support Akeno as the relationship between Akeno and Riser would bring a benefit to her family. Yet, she had to say it was tough. She wiped the tears from her eyes, then left. Rias-sama. Kaneko quickly chased after Rias as she didn't know what to do, but she knew she had to chase after her master. What's wrong? Akeno asked as she was looking in the direction where Riser was staring at. Nothing. Riser shook his head and just continued his date while thinking that Rias was a tough woman,